Llama downloads passed 350 million.
So the CEO of OpenAI Japan openly talked about GPT-Next.
Salad claims that their AI can identify things like strep and, just having the flu or, just a standard cold and things like that.
Google is doing something before the election, but in a very weird, undocumented way, of course.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Daily AI Show, live. Today, I'm joined by Beth, Brian, and Andy, and I am Jimmy. And today is Wednesday, therefore it is News Day. We will cover the top stories that we think everyone should know about. And as always, we have not talked to each other about what stories we're going to do. And so it's all going to be new for us as well. So I want to kick it off. And Andy, do you have a pressing story that you really want to talk about today?
Yeah, let me give an overview. Hang on. Let's see here. Okay. OpenAI says they have greater than 200 million weekly ChatGPT users. Plus, the API usage doubled in the 5 weeks since GPT-4o mini launched. That says to me that automated pipelines are likely switching to mini to OpenAI's benefit, but just the raw number of 200 million unique users in a given week is astounding to me. Now, we just talked about the top 50 AI applications, and of course ChatGPT is at the top, but to have 200 million weekly actives is amazing. It shows just what a gulf there is between what OpenAI is doing, and it's really reinforcing that there are a lot of people using AI now. Now, on the open source front, Meta is the leader, right, with their Llama line of models. So Llama downloads passed 350 million. 350 million times Llama has been downloaded. Now that's people taking an open source model and operating it on their own. And that there were just, in just the weeks of August just passed, there were 20 million downloads of Llama. What an amazing, increase in what's going on here. Plus, on top of that, access through the APIs to the Llama models, where you can access them as a model option in a number of different places where you have multimodal optionality there. That grew 10x in the first half of this year. So lots is going on. And then I want to talk later, after I hear some news from you guys, about the Nvidia release. But that'll be the good opener here. Like, AI is flying out there.
That's true. That's true. Brian, what do you got?
I can add to that just a little bit on the ChatGPT side of it. Let's bring this up. So this actually just came out. I think I just read this in the Rundown, which is a great newsletter. So make sure I'm giving credit where credit is due. It has the tagline there about the 200 million active users, but that's actually not what's interesting about this article. So the CEO of OpenAI Japan openly talked about GPT-Next. And so this is actually an article that's in Japanese first and needs to be translated. So we're going to say that Google Translate is doing this correctly. Obviously, Rundown also talked about it, but I went ahead and translated it with Google Translate. And he says he calls it GPT-Next, which we have heard that title before. We've also heard, obviously, things like Orion. We've heard things like Strawberry. So how does this all play and factor in? Well, it's starting to all sort of come together here. And I think what we're going to see is our GPT, let's call it 5. I think we're going to see that before the end of the year. Beth, you were kind of talking about this yesterday. I think that GPT-Next will be after, this is just my opinion, by the way, obviously. But since more and more people are talking about it from inside OpenAI, including the CEO from OpenAI Japan, I feel like this is something we can definitely sort of report on. I think that model, like I've said before, is going to have some semblance of reasoning that is using Strawberry Q-Star as part of it. And then it seems like Orion, which we've sort of reported on before, is going to be this future model. It's beyond GPT-5 or GPT-Next, depending on what they want to do. Personally, I think it's a good idea if they go with GPT-Next as a title. I think it's smart to get away from the numbering system. I mean, obviously, we see this with iPhones and different things. And I think that makes sense to go to a named model. So maybe this is their way of moving towards, something like Orion, although I think stay out of the stars. Gemini's already there, and, with Space Wig and all that stuff. I think he could have gone with a different name, but nonetheless, it certainly rolls off the tongue easier than ChatGPT. So I just want to make sure I brought this up because this is, again, this is a high-ranking person within the OpenAI. They only have 2,000 employees worldwide. So you're talking about 200 million users, Andy. I mean, there's only 2,000 OpenAI employees worldwide. And so you've got a CEO of their latest expansion into Asia talking about it openly. Now, whether he was supposed to, whether he wasn't, you never know who talks a little bit with loose lips here or not. But this is being widely reported. It just came out yesterday. This is the other part I wanted to bring up. He said specifically, this is the CEO, said that the performance is nearly 100 times higher, Nagasaki explained. And then he goes on to talk about how GPT-4o it also supports multimodal, which we already know that part. So, I don't know. It's something worth talking about for sure. And there's a lot of speculation and all that, but we're getting more and more confirmation of this. When it actually comes out, I'm under and Beth, I know you talked about this too. I don't think it'll happen before the election. I think that's something that's 100 times smarter or performs 100 times, 100x higher than something we currently have is not the type of thing to throw into society directly before major elections and things like that. Whether that's true or not, I don't really know. Like I said, I'm not a conspiracy person at all. It just seems to make logical sense to me. So we'll have to see what happens, obviously. But look, it's September. So we don't have a whole lot. We're almost in fourth quarter here. We don't have a whole lot longer to the end of the year to see really what happens. So whatever it is, I think we're going to see some big pushes here in the next couple weeks. And then if I could pivot really quick just to one other story, because I want to make sure I have a chance to correct myself from yesterday's show, is just about Apple's event. So I said I thought it was Tuesday. I thought they were always on Tuesday. I'm incorrect on that. It's Monday, September 9th, and it'll happen at 10 a.m. Pacific time, so 1 p.m. Eastern. That's when they're doing their glow time reveal. I kind of feel like they stole that from Canva and their glow up event that they had a couple months ago. Glow time, glow up. I don't know. We'll have to see what it really means. But this is when we hope to hear more about AI, not AI, but Apple Intelligence AI, since Apple was, as it says in here, happily took that moniker of the AI and to make it Apple Intelligence so they could be their own thing, a very Apple move there. But anyway, we'll have to figure out what comes out. I think with it being Monday, we may do a show about this on Tuesday, because I'm sure beyond it just being about new models, which of course we're going to see, and watches, which isn't specifically AI, I do expect to hear a lot more about this Apple Intelligence and how it plays into whether it's the iPhone 16, iPhone 16X, what chips are going to be necessary to run this, and will it actually come out with these models? Because typically if they announce it, you can start ordering them pretty quickly thereafter. So sometime in September, I usually have a new model in my hand. And let's say I purchase the 16. Does that mean I'm going to have this new Apple Intelligence immediately? Or is that going to be delayed and pushed? So maybe we'll learn more about that as well. And that's next Monday. So Monday, September 9th at 10 a.m. Pacific is when the next Apple event is. So just want to make sure I corrected myself from yesterday on that.
Awesome. So I'm going to jump on a couple of things that you said. One was this GPT-Next. One of the things that they said about it was that it's not a completely new trained model. It's actually GPT-4o with some more efficient use of the resources, right? And that seems to be getting the 100 times more effective. Excellent, no problem. Also, nice little flex there, Brian, using Google to translate an OpenAI good news article. So take that with a slight grain of salt. Maybe, I don't know if Google is saying everything that they're saying, and none of us read Japanese, as far as I know. You wanna push back at that?
No, I don't want to push back. I mean, Google Translate was in lockstep with Rundown. I don't know what Rundown used. I thought I could probably take the Japanese article and bring it directly to ChatGPT. But this goes back to the point about using the dumb tool agnostic, right? I use whatever the tool is the most efficient, the easiest to use. You know what the easiest thing to use is in a Google Chrome tab? Pressing Translate. So that's what I went with. And it's been Google Translate's been around a long time. So I do trust it. I don't think it had too much of trouble translating the Japanese to English. But yeah, good call out. I mean, the right thing to do here would be to put it through a different translation.
Not associated. Yeah,
I did not test my I didn't do what I should have in the scientific method.
Anthropic, anyone, right? We're saying that OpenAI seems to not be moving or doing something before the election. Google is doing something before the election, but in a very weird, undocumented way, of course, as AI companies like to do. If you're using the Google API, you now have a new safety setting. They were harassment, hate, sexually explicit, etc. There's a fifth one now called civic integrity. And not only is it not documented or announced, like I was just running something, I was like, hey, there were 4. Why are there 5? Oh, I get it. I went to look for it. And in the Google Dev discussion board, which of course is where you learn everything about the way that the companies are releasing these things, someone said, so I noticed that this exists, and I put in massive amounts of disinformation, misinformation, in the sort of thing that you might think would get tagged as civic integrity, as a violation of civic integrity, and it got medium harassment, low hate, 0 civic integrity. So you can set those parameters, and clearly they're trying to do something with it, but it looks like that's not actually doing anything yet. But I thought that was interesting because no one else has seemed to come out and directly address it. But the safety settings on the other models, we don't get to see Anthropic or OpenAI's safety settings. That's not something we can choose. So that's what I got. Jumi, what do you got?
Well, I got a couple of things. Some of my normal sources, which I love to go to for science, AI and science news, didn't really have anything new, but TechCrunch did about Google. They recently partnered with a company called Southset to incorporate that company's tech into Google offerings for analyzing your coughs and your sneezes and that kind of auditory response to plug into their medical database or their medical models to then extract what kind of potential sickness that you have. And Salad claims that their AI can identify things like strep and, just having the flu or, just a standard cold and things like that. So I found that really interesting that they're going to wrap that up into their medical offerings. And this is not the first time that Google has expanded into that medical side of things. So they have MedLM, which is based off of their Palm models and things like that. But they also have an in-house residency program where they kind of incubate other kinds of companies that are built off of these different technologies. And earlier in the year, I think there was an article about how they were investing in their team to build out olfactory component. So scent, smell and things like that. So since Google's Gemini is multimodal and we've got vision from that, we've got scent from this other tech incubation, and now this partnership with Southset, they're really working on the true 5 senses to experience the world. So I think I can slowly see where these applications will be. So I found that really interesting on this.
Real quick before you move on, that does kind of bring new meaning to turn your head to the left and cough. I didn't see AI getting involved there, but apparently so.
Well, that might be the thumbnail for the next AI in medical episode that we do.
Maybe so. Yeah, humanoid robot with Yeah, we'll see how PC we can make that.
Right. Got to be safe.
Well, on that same subject, I didn't clip this, so I don't know the reference, but I saw this week a reference to taking a photo of your tongue and getting, an evaluation of your health from that, or identifying diseases that you likely are suffering from. So if you have a sore throat or a cough, not only can you contribute your cough, but also a photo of your tongue. And apparently that's a really good indicator. That's why they use a tongue depressor, I guess, doctors in the office, and look inside your mouth. There's a lot of information in there, and AI is going to expand on that.
Okay, I want to jump in about the olfactory, because that's the least the least studied sense in a way. Like, I live in a giant building. We can pinpoint where a sound is coming from for the most part, but we can't pinpoint where a smell is coming from unless it's like massive outside of one door. Like, there's so much that you could do with this. And of course, like, you want to know who's cooking fish in a microwave, but really you want to know where that smell of gas comes from, or where that burnt smell comes from. Like, it's not just annoying, it's important. There we go.
And that kind of speaks to, because of our own limitations in our human olfactory senses. But other animals and things like that, they have fantastic. That's why you have bloodhounds and other animals that are great at that. But we've covered stories in the past where universities have come out with techniques or research papers about building out new hardware, new sensors, specifically to replicate or enhance each of those senses. And the olfactory is one of the ones that they're working on, besides, vision, tactile, taste, and things like that. So, I mean, the legitimate concept of having a humanoid robot doctor with all of those things, just for, diagnostic, they'll smell your breath, they'll look at the pallidness of your skin, or, those pictures, like you said, Andy, of your throat and things like that, or they'll just see anything that a doctor could do. You could have that robot do, potentially. So that's some future sight.
And obviously, I mean, anything with smell or anything like that, our senses can go well beyond medical. I mean, you can think about. I only think about this yesterday because I was cooking chicken, and I went to turn on my electric temperature gauge, with the prod on it, and for whatever reason, either got left out somewhere moist, whatever, but the batteries have corroded so bad inside that I had to toss it. I was like, man, I don't have a temperature gauge. So it just made me think of this, like, just like a temperature gauge, you may hang a little, AI sensor on in the oven or on the side of the oven or whatever. And it's like, it's giving you indicators of, when the chicken is done based on, moisture content and smell and things like that. So you can see there's like all sorts of kind of crazy things. This isn't actually a firefighter suit, but since I have the banner, I'm using it. But for sure, you could use it within, emergency management. There's lots of places with chemicals and the bomb side of stuff, but also on the firefighter side. I can't tell you, how big of a deal that was with overhaul with firefighting. That's after the fire is out, and you're literally moving through the burnt out wherever you are, building apartment complex or otherwise, and making sure that the fires don't reignite. Teeny tiny spark can reignite if it's inside a lot of clothes. So things like mattresses and all that. But you can imagine the amount of deadly chemicals that are now gassing, and it was traditional for firefighters not to have SCBAs on and breathing oxygen while they're doing that, which probably will lead to a lot of cancer to a lot of firefighters. So you can imagine tools like this could be huge safety factors, not only just fires, but just walking into unknown calls. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we were on calls where we just didn't quite know what we were getting into until we were there. I can think of calls where people passed out because they mixed bleach with the wrong thing and just trying to clean their house. Carbon dioxide where people grilled inside their house because it was cold outside, things like this. And so you don't always know exactly. So having a sensor like that would be massive, obviously, if it was capable of and we do, but putting AI to it, I think that sounds really, really cool. That's sort of a really exciting area of AI to keep
And Jimmy, you were saying like now the AI human doctor, the AI doctor that's as good as a human. But like, can I have the AI doctor with the nose as good as a dog who can smell cancer and diabetes, right? Can I have the AI doctor with the eyes that are as good as eagle? Or like, I mean, like, let's go.
And just to take it out of the box that we're talking about, humanoid doctor. What if we just had it as a scanner? You walk into the room, it scans everything of you, and then spits out your medical report, right? Just on your day in like a public arch somewhere, and you just walk through, and it's like, oh, bling. Oh,
that sounds like a subject for a sci-fi AI show.
Yeah. You know what? You're right, Andy. We should definitely do that. All right. I'm gonna switch gears a little bit and move on to the other story that I have for today, and it's about a company called Spotter. All right, so Spotter is in the content creation realm. They've been around for a little while, and they have these various tools to help content creators create their content, improve their content, make it more attractive for viewers and things like that. But now they've released their suite of AI tools that will help those content creators create better content through, like you just saw there is their brainstorming feature. They can give you ideas on story concepts, thumbnails, visual imagery, ways to keep to your theme, but diversify the types of content that you're doing. They have something called projects, which helps you organize and things like that. And while they're not the only company doing these kinds of things, their big focus is that they're more on the individual creator. So not so much as a industry or anything like that. But one of the things that they claim is that with their, they had some big names that they did a pilot program with and everything like that. But in their early beta testing, they said that they showed an average of a 49% increase in views in the first week compared to videos that weren't made with Spotter. So I don't know if that's I don't know if that is contributed to individual creators not having a certain experience level in, content creation process, filmmaking process, video making process, those kinds of things, or if it's just each of those tools, because the main thing that their AI does is it pulls in metrics and identifying markers from, I think they said something like the top 200,000 or top 2 million videos and things like that. It's a very large database, and they're able to extract insights from all of that. And that's what goes into their suggestions. So it's something that I want to test out in the future, because of, our own processes. But to claim a 49% increase, that seems amazing to me. So I'm going to dive a little deeper and see how that is. But it's nice to see AI tools in the creator space as well.
Yeah, that TechCrunch article. Oh no, it wasn't Tech. Was it?
No, it's TechCrunch. Yeah,
it was TechCrunch. The TechCrunch article also says that it is, just for reference, $49 per month, or they have an initial limited time discount of $299 per year. But it also says at the very end, there's also a free 30-day trial. So something everybody can kind of check out if you're making content, specifically on YouTube or whatever. Yeah, I saw that too, Jimmy. I thought that was really interesting. And, like you said, they're not the only ones out there. I mean, even YouTube themselves has their own AI, suggestions and things like that, we certainly look at as creators. But it'd be interesting to see what this Spotter Studio can do. So that's pretty cool.
So, Andy, you said you had another story that you wanted to cover. What do you got?
So last week, as you know, we were waiting for the post stock market closing release of Nvidia's Q2 results. And truly, the entire market is dependent on Nvidia showing really big numbers now in order to bolster a whole host of technology company stocks that are out there. And they announced some really incredible results. But, spoiler alert, as a result of that being not big enough, the market went down. And not only did it go down then, but it's continued to go down. And yesterday, there was a major drop across all the technology sector. And so there's been a huge decline in the value of many of these companies. In Nvidia's case specifically, the stock had been hovering around 128 to 130, and today it's around 105. So it's a really big drop. And but the numbers were pretty impressive. Their revenue went up 154% year over year for the 3-month second quarter, and that was up to $26 billion of sales in 3 months. Okay, that's the pace at which Nvidia's results are performing in 2024, and yet that wasn't big enough for the stock market to appreciate. But I think there's some things to take from that. When you combine what I said at the top of the show about the incredible statistics around use of inference, and then NVIDIA's sale of inference to data centers and to enterprises, I think there's another aspect to it that's kind of overcoming, in my mind, concerns about the underlying return on investment for companies employing AI as a driver of whether this sort of gold rush will continue. And that the fact that I now am paying attention to is that the cost of those inference tokens is going down. And what does that mean? That means for companies that are employing AI, their return on investment is improving, right? So they're not having to spend as much at we're not talking about the people who are building data centers who have big treasure chests like Google and Apple and Meta, but we're talking about the companies that are using the tools that they are offering from their data centers. That ROI is coming to pass. So they're getting immediate value from not only AI inference, but now GPUs, which is the product that NVIDIA is offering, and this incredible boom is based on. Those GPUs are now being applied to just basic recommendation centers and data processing because they're faster and their overall performance is so excellent. So that's all promising news to me. And so I'm going to just say that with NVIDIA being down around 105 today, but with many analysts on Wall Street saying the target is in the vicinity of 150, 145 or 150, you have an opportunity to get in on the gold rush here, but no guarantees.
Are you saying buy the dip, Andy?
I'm saying buy the dip here.
Not financial advice. Not financial advice.
No financial advice here, but this is an opportunity to evaluate whether you should buy the dip on NVIDIA. I have one other quick thing here that I wanted to add on the Google front, and that is in the past days, they've released Google Genz, which is their custom task-oriented GPT-like thing. So custom GPTs over at OpenAI, Genz over at Google. You can use that. And they also released ImageGen 3, which is a new and highly advanced image generation product. So Google's making hay out there as well.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. So on the front of things getting bigger, and this is sort of related to Google, Magic AI is a new startup that released that claims its new model and it's on a wait list. LTM-2-mini can handle up to 100 million tokens in its context window. Our current largest context window that's available is the 2 million token context window that comes with Google Gemini 1.5 Pro. With Google Flash 1.5 is a 1 million context window, and those dwarf the larger context windows of Anthropic and OpenAI. Now, It's related to Google because the Google developer that I follow on Twitter, Paige Bailey, said, "Ooh, Google companies do lots of great things." So that's why I think it's related to that Google has some sort of relationship or sponsorship or something. That's speculation based on a tweet. The second,
but I have a point of information about that, which is that.
Good.
There is a thread over to Google with Magic Labs, and that is that Eric Schmidt and Atlassian, both of those companies. Well, Eric Schmidt isn't the company Google, but he's multi-billionaire as a result of being the chairman of Google for a period, as well as the CEO. They raised $320 million for Magic Labs, so they believe in this long-term memory thing. I personally don't understand the application. Like, when would you need to put 100 million tokens in as context? It's hard to imagine. Who is doing that kind of data movement, right? That's a lot of tokens.
We, as the Daily AI Show, making a show every day, 5 days a week for a year and more, are above the 2 million context window. So if it may be us, if we're around for a little longer. The other very, very large thing that happened recently is Elon Musk personally, I'm sure he didn't do it personally, his Colossus came online. Colossus is 100,000 liquid-cooled Nvidia H100 GPUs connected on a single network fabric and is considered the most powerful in the world, of course, according to Musk. But even if it's not the most powerful, it's really, really big. Colossus is not a misnomer. And the plan is that when they receive the 50,000 H200s, which is the next model up of the H100s, it will go to 200,000 GPUs. Yep, that math doesn't entirely work because there's 50-something missing there, but that's fine. The reason that this is, this is news because it's news, but also the leap between Grok 1 to Grok 2 was fairly quick and very substantial, right? Grok 1 was like a party trick, weird, sarcastic, fifth grader AI kind of thing. Grok 2 is actually not I wouldn't say like a GPT-4 contender, but the leap in that amount of time was huge. And now they're bringing even more to the party to be able to leap to Grok 3, and they're saying Grok 3 will be released by the end of the year. I will also say Elon in no way will wait until after the election to release something that might be impactful, shall we say. So I would say it's not ready if it's not released before November. But those are like, yeah, everything's getting bigger, faster, all those.
Yeah,
I want to bring up this.
I want to answer that question. So I think Colossus as the training academy for advanced LLMs, for the frontier models. And of course, Colossus has been put together to allow xAI, Elon Musk's company, to leapfrog the training advances that OpenAI and Google have by just applying an enormous academy of compute to it. So Cisco, your point is interesting. It's providing the compute, but do they have good data and good algos? And what you're referring to here is that there is a limit on the amount of data that's out there in the real world to put into the training of an LLM. But the answer to it, do they have good data and good algos, is that there are major advances in the creation of synthetic data using other LLMs that are pre-trained to actually provide case examples that are valid and challenging problems that can be solved, that all go into the training of the more advanced reasoning models out there. So it doesn't seem like there's a cap from data or on the algorithms that are being used in the training in those academies. So when you buy enough power, compute power, you're going to accomplish a leapfrog like that. And the Grok 2 to Grok 3 thing that Beth just mentioned is an example of that.
Gotcha.
So you're gonna yes, but there is some directionality that happens from the training and what is considered a good connection, right? And or like, I'm just going back to the music Rick Rubin quote, like, you still have to have taste, you still have to have some standards and like a common direction that people agree on. And I don't know who's making those decisions at X, actually, right? So it will be very powerful and probably disruptive.
Yeah, and
I feel confident saying those things.
Very powerful and biased is what you're saying, right?
I want to, remind people that if you want to do a deep dive, if you want to better understand the three-legged stool that goes in, that's beyond just compute, but other efficiencies that go into models, I highly recommend reading Situational Awareness by Leopold Brenner. Brenner. One second.
Brenner.
And that's at situational-awareness.ai. You can find that. I don't know, let's call it a paper. It's long. It took me a few hours to read through it, but I highly recommend it, because if you just want to wrap your head around what it takes when we see things like GPT-Next, when we see things like 200 GPUs, like, how does that all matter? And how do you make these models cheaper and cheaper and cheaper without necessarily adding compute? All of that is explained within that paper, that essay, and I cannot recommend it enough. It's one of those things I feel like I want to go back and read again just to absorb more of it. And now that it's been a month or maybe 3 months since it first came out on there. I do have two news stories, but I don't think I interrupted somebody. Did you guys have more?
No. I want to hear what you got. There's a story that was in our back channels that I'm hoping that you're going to cover. So go for it.
Well, I got two, and I think this one's interesting, and that's that Amazon has talked, and there's been stories now that their new Alexa voice, which they call, they have a name for it, dubbed a remarkable Alexa. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. But that maybe they're having some internal struggles with their, I think Titan is their AI model that they were building internally, and it's just not up. And so they may be using Claude as part of their AI assistant. And what I find interesting here is we all love Claude for what Claude can do, but it crucially doesn't have one feature, and that's that it cannot search the internet. So immediately I thought to myself, well, that's probably going backwards. And it's not really the truth, but like, I think what they're going to use Claude, and even this model, this article that I have up on the screen sort of speaks to it a little bit, which says that, Amazon is coming back and saying, hey, we use multiple models as part of what we're going to do. But I do wonder what they're going to come out with, because, I have Echoes through my house or whatever, and they're fine for what they do, set a timer. I was using them last night to cook and stuff like that. They're great for that, laundry and all that. Would I pay $5 or even $10 a month for it to be smarter in the house? That would really have to depend. I would have to get like a free trial or just test it once and really see if I felt like, oh, I'm getting really high quality Claude answers here, or something that I felt like it drastically improved the quality of having these Echoes in the house. Maybe it will. Maybe they have a combination of several different models that they're going to be using, including Titan, their internal one. But anyway, it's an interesting article nonetheless. And honestly, it's probably a good move, because we do know how good Claude is at what it does. Again, it can't go to the internet, but that aside, Claude is very, very powerful and gives really, really good answers. So you can imagine how quickly that would improve an Echo's performance by simply saying, hey, so-and-so, give me a bedtime story. I mean, that powered by Claude automatically sounds better to me. Or help me fall asleep or whatever, or even help me understand the news of the day. All those things I think would be enhanced pretty quickly by having Claude as part of it. So that was one of them. I don't know if you guys had any thoughts on that one. And then
it's definitely going to be an improvement, right? Anytime you're going to plug in another model to the existing Alexa voice assistant. So and like you said, if they plan on adding different models for different aspects, I think collectively that'll be that collection of experts or whatnot that just chooses which model needs to go access to. So I think that'll just be a general improvement overall.
It also sounds like you can talk to Claude. Can you talk to Claude now through the iOS app? Like, we know I like to talk to the models. I think differently when I'm talking out loud. So that would be delightful.
I was going to check for you, but now I have to log in.
all model providers, OpenAI, everybody, can we get voice interaction on web? I'd really like it on the web. I use it more than I would the mobile. I don't know if there's a technical, barrier to get over, but that would be awesome. Thank you. All right.
Last thing I'll say on this too is I think Amazon has honestly one shot to get this very right. This isn't like Google where they sort of step on their own toes a lot and stuff. When you think about how many Echo devices are currently out there that would be overnight capable of having enhanced features, I think you want to get that right. And you want to pause as long as you need to pause as the company to make sure that that's going to be an amazing experience. Because we know from this show, there are quite literally millions of people who just have not even dabbled into AI. And this will be their first real dipping their toe in the water of AI. They're not going to call it AI. They're just going to say their Echo got smarter. And hey, isn't this great? It's more than a timer in my kitchen now. So I think there's a huge, huge potential here for Amazon to really, really put their mark with devices that are already distributed. It's not like we're asking them to buy something new or a new speaker. We literally are saying the devices that you have could potentially be smarter tomorrow or whatever, right? So it's huge. I hope they're taking their time with it. I'm kind of rooting for them to get this right, maybe because I have devices in my house, but I don't think this is the type of thing where you want to have a subpar experience, because it really could be detrimental to people adopting AI. So it's actually kind of bigger in my mind than that. Okay, I know we're running out of time. Real quick, this is the other one I wanted to share real quick because it's interesting. This is from Robert Yang on X, and he says, introducing Project SID, the first simulations of 1,000 plus truly autonomous agents collaborating in a virtual world with emergent economy, culture, religion, and government. Humans are the only species that land on the moon because we can cooperate at a vast scale. Can AI do the same? And then he has a whole bunch of more posts underneath it. I actually like this one as well, and we'll talk about it in a second. He said, here, by truly autonomous agents, we refer specifically to machines that are, and he lists out 4 things here. I'm actually really glad he did this because we do see the term agent overused right now. So he says it has to be long-term autonomous, which means it can progress for hours and days by themselves, not a simple function calling agent, which is what we typically see for agents right now. Organizational, they can collaborate with one another to achieve what individuals can, not just serving 1,000 agents to 1,000 customers. I thought that was a good call out. It's pro-human motivated. They have their own deep and robust drives to support humans, not just instruction following, but obedient machines, and consciously communicative. They can verbally express their conscious through thoughts and feelings, not just language conditioned robots. So this has all been built inside of not Roblox. What's the one called?
Minecraft.
You can tell I don't play Minecraft. I had it. It was gone. But they said it doesn't matter where it can be deployed in other games, I guess. But Minecraft was the first one they did. And if you go to Robert Yang, which is on X, you can see some videos of, I guess the AI agents sort of bouncing around and building civilizations and doing very SimCity-like things, but doing it autonomously. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, or as people dive into it, whether people are uncovering it for being kind of a hack or not truly agentic. I think that's what I'm waiting for, is to get get people on this, because sometimes these things come out with a big boom in the news and we talk about it, and then you find 6 weeks later that it's a bunch of paid people in dark rooms somewhere around the world who are actually manipulating these. And you're like, oh, okay. Not truly agentic, even though they said it was. So we'll have to see how much truth there is to it, but it got a lot of attention in the last couple of days.
Yeah, it hooked me as soon as I saw it, because and towards that whole hype cycle, the video they put out, very polished, got me on the narrative side, fantastic narrative. And of course, my brain immediately went to the sci-fi aspect of that. So check out a future episode of Sci-Fi AI regarding virtual worlds and simulation. And have you ever seen the movie The 13th Floor? I think it kind of applies here. But what was really really attractive to me was the concept that you could have all these, it was a visual form of seeing how agents could work, right? It really sticks. It's one thing to talk about the potentialities, but when you see these independent agents working together, working in concert for whatever their goals, being able to figure out plans or design plans and execute them, that sticks in your mind. It has more stickiness in my brain, so to speak. So I think that's what really got me on that. You know, and Minecraft is a great test bed for those kinds of things because it's a general simulation of world physics and those kinds of things. So I think that was a good choice on that side. Not to mention that there's, you know, millions and millions of users of or players on Minecraft, so they'll get it right off the bat. So yeah, great story. I'm glad you brought it up because while it's early, I do want to know more about it. So yeah. Does anybody have anything else? Otherwise, I think we're going to close it out for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on our show today. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. We've got some, we've got a great show on Cursor coming up, and then we've got our bi-weekly wrap up on Friday. So until tomorrow, see you later.
Aloha.